Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. This video is going to be a Keiron versus Keiron analysis. This is actually going to be, I think, a 3-part video. It could be 2, it could be 5. And all of these games were played between you, and KOPDSD. So I'm gonna start this by going ahead into this replay. Now KOPDSD, he's quite a formidable Genetron and Keiron player. He's known for often using fuses and umbras, or fuses and auroras for very strong early game harass. His Genetron is also quite good. He often goes into inciters and large amounts of Spitfires. Yep. I think currently out of all the regular players currently, he's probably the highest ranked with his normal MMR. Although technically not at the moment, but he says that last season, I don't think he's ranked this season, but last season he was like 4.8k. But because he hasn't been playing many ranked games this season, he's only in Diamond 1 at the moment. 4.8/5k, around that area. So like very low, like top 150 GM in NA, although he plays on the Korean server. So that's a bit of background on KOPDSD. So first thing to take note of is that our openers are different. Now at this stage I'm not entirely sure which opener is best in Keiron versus Keiron out of these two openers. KOPDSD did come up with a second opener, which is absolutely necessary for Keiron versus Genetron if you simply just want to be able to survive against the best builds that there are for Genetron. And that is getting single gas and sanctum before you expand. This delays the Citadel by like around 41 seconds though. So it definitely sounds like a big deal, and it kind of is to your economy. Although his build is like it still feels quite good. It allows for a lot faster tech, which is where his Foundry and Fuse shenanigans can be very powerful. As for me, I'm using the opener that I normally use. I think in most matchups, the opener that I use I think is best because of all this extra economy. Getting the faster tech won't really matter so much. Although if you are looking to play more aggressive style, especially with that kind of fuse style, I definitely think opening up with KOPDSD's opener is better. Should call him by a different name, maybe Cop. I'll just call him Cop. I think he's from Korea, fairly certain, but I could be misremembering it with Gene Hunold, aka Loser. Yeah, one of them's from China, the other one's from Korea. So this is why early game shenanigans doesn't really work against Keiron, at the very least small early game shenanigans, because of this charge being extremely strong. Just a single worker being any kind of push will be shut down. So, although at the moment he does manage to get one of my vaults, and I get one of his vaults as well. So I then open up with double Foundry, while he goes into Outlet. Where says Outlet? Oh no, never mind. That was game 2. I'm misremembering. Sorry. But yes, he goes into Fused Umbra in this game. And this is especially important, I think, if you want to figure out, is it better to open up with double Foundry or a single Foundry, however with fuses? Now I think the answer is pretty obvious. The answer is, I think, double Foundry, because you have roughly twice as many Umbra, pretty much. And although even if his Umbras had double the health, which they don't, it still wouldn't be as good for him because that's also double, like, the DPS is a lot smaller. He does manage to snipe one of my Umbras though, in this stage. I go into Atrium tech. This tech is extremely important. Myriads, of course, very strong in Keiron versus Keiron. Absolutely necessary to counter vaults. If you do not have Myriads, then you can simply mass vaults and beat every composition there is pretty much. At least in the mid game. Not so much in the late game, but yeah. Including this kind of fused Umbra style. Although, in the early game, I will admit, it's not quite as... Sorry. It's not quite as strong, per se. Like, you know, the vaults won't be able to do much until they have their upgrades and a critical mass. At the moment, he's been trading quite effectively with these fuses, so don't count that out. The extra HP will give them quite a lot more. It'll make it a lot harder for them to be picked off. As you can see, I'm floating a lot of minerals. This is absolutely my bad. I should be making more edifices, and the third base. Yeah, this third base is faster. I start at my third base now. Modified gate, actually roughly pretty much the same time. I get Keiron shields level, no. He gets Keiron shields level 1. I do not think I have my relic barrier. Oh yeah, I do. I can start it up any upgrades though. Another key thing to note though here is that I haven't gotten Wraith Chambers, which I definitely should have, I think, in this game. I think I might actually be winning even, probably winning, if I had Wraith Chambers. He does, but I do not. Oh no, he doesn't either. Never mind. My bad. Is there no spot? I don't believe there's a spot in there to show that Wraith Chambers might be active. I got a Umbra, as you can see, from this lone fuse. Another Myriad coming. Especially these Elytron just simply tanking hits because they can just be remade on the battlefield really quickly. They're actually just quite strong simply for that as well. I do manage to snipe his third though. I didn't manage to catch if it was a cancel or not, but I will assume it was. I do not remember if it was or not. But Cop is quite a high level player, so it's gone into Empyrean technology and an Atrium. Yeah. Atrium definitely vital in this matchup. I'm yet to go for an Elysium. I'm not getting it wrong yet. Elysium. Which I probably should have earlier. Not for Myriads, because Umbra and not for Meridians. Oh dear. Because Umbra and Myriads are quite a bit better, I think. It's better for your gas spend and that, but for these upgrades here. Even though Myriads might wreck these, for one, he doesn't have them at the moment, and secondly, yeah, you see how quick all those pariahs died. Now I should just be backing off right now, which I am. I shouldn't be moving out against this many fused Umbra. He's getting Wraith Chambers, finally. I'm still yet to get them. If I do get them at all during this. I don't remember if I do. Unfortunately, I left these Myriads behind because they're too slow. This is a massive mistake by me. But, so, something to keep note of, especially if you're retreating from a fight or anything. Make sure to perhaps even just follow the Myriads. Have your army follow your Myriads. Make sure that they're not left and caught out like that. Now at this stage, it's analysis-wise, focus more on the army composition rather than the actual errors and whatnot. But as you can see here, his army is almost entirely Umbra, minor Volt Myriad with a few Umbra mixed in as well. I thought, oh no. Both getting in 4th places at relatively even times as well. Kind of surprised that this game is so even. Even though we are both master players, we're certainly not pros. Long way from pro level. And often there should and generally is a lot of variation in play styles and all that, and timings at that level. Only really until you reach hit 6k. So this is a lot of Umbra. Now, when I say Volts counter Umbra, I mean this is true. However, it's however you also need to be very careful that you have numbers and they're well upgraded and all that, because it's kind of similar to the muter, to the Corruptor's Beat muters kind of line of thought. Even though I've seen many games where muters do beat the Corruptors, and it's often in high numbers and all that. There are some nullifiers, so they are going to be on my Pariah run by. I really should be spreading my minerals a little bit better. There were quite a few mistakes I made in this game, which I think actually could have ended up winning, with me winning if I didn't make them. As for Cop, I haven't really caught him floating too much. I mean, this is a bit, but not as much as I have. Not having wave changes, I think, is a mistake. Oh wait. No, I finally got them. Yeah. I think it's absolutely necessary that you do get wave changes, whatever you do. As for single Foundry openers, I don't think you should do them. Simply for the fact that I'm fairly certain, at least I haven't actually tried this, but I'm fairly certain they simply just die to any higher Umbra count or fused Umbras. It's very micro heavy and all that in the early game, I think. Between those Umbras, kind of similar to Roach Walls, I suppose, or Stalker Walls. But yeah, getting an Aegis. Biological weapons level 2. His upgrades just 1111. 1111. Just 111. I now have 2-1. Which is quite important against these Umbra. Some Titans are out. Titans are also fairly important. I think especially going toward the later game, and something that we see in another replay that I'll probably be analyzing as well later on, is that Titans can really be used to drive an advantage. So if you have, or at least that wasn't demonstrated so much, but they're just strong units. Although the main problem and the main thing that you have to be wary of when going Titans is that inducers exist, and they're already available to your opponent if they're making myriads with these atriums. They don't need to even tech up at all. They already have the counter pretty much available. However, these Titans are very good at winning fights. So if you're able to get many of these Titans, then you're really going to be able, and your opponent doesn't have them, and you can probably simply jump them and then perhaps even win the game just then and there in a fight, because their attack speed debuff is so strong. As you can see here, my arm is getting cleaned up. This is superior Titan count, and here's a concave. I do have an Aegis. So I will be losing this game. I just haven't GG'd yet. But especially with the Titans, they could probably be useful for a big push, but they won't be useful forever, because inducers especially can, yeah, take them down really quick. You could, and you probably will, in the later game, be seeing Titans replace myriads more and more, I think, in this matchup, or in any matchup as well, really, because Titans do have that very good splash. They are phenomenal against those lighter pariah vault units. So, yeah. You could potentially use them instead. Especially considering they'll be at the front of your army, and inducers do bonus damage to massive. The player with, even with slightly lower Titan count than yours, if they have 5 inducers in the back, absolutely hammering those Titans, then they'll be killing your Titans quicker than you'll be killing their Titans. Or yeah, the player with the inducers will be able to kill Titans quicker. And then really whoever, by the end of the fight, or near the end of the fight, once someone runs out of Titans, then the other player pretty much wins. If you get my explaining. Still haven't lost yet. Shields level 3, that's significant. But about driving that advantage, once, I think, at least from what I've thought of, if you have enough money, because inducers do still take a little while to kill Titans, if you have more money and in a better spot, generally in a better position than your opponent, they'll be able to be used to drive an advantage really quickly. That's a long Titan. Then they'll be able to be used to drive an advantage simply into probably just winning the game. See my Scion hate death. But I will lose this game. Catch those 2 Titans maybe. As you just saw, their convergence is pretty useless, I think, in this matchup generally speaking. Perhaps you could use it to clear Elytron, so then your myriads could have an advantage in a fight, but it might not even be worth it to invest all that money to get enough energy, enough meridians, and the upgrade, of course, to then also kill those Elytron. It would probably just be better if you just got more myriads or Titans or something. But yeah, with driving that advantage, like I said earlier, if someone's behind, they can really struggle to get out enough inducers to then be able to kill these Titans quickly, and then as well get their own Titan count that is significant. Yeah, so if a player's not able to do both of those things, then you'll probably simply just win the game, because you will still need a fairly even Titan count in order to win any fights against an enemy army. So basically what I'm saying is, if you're, say, behind just a little bit, so you have 2 less Titans worth of income, or 2 less Titans worth of just Titans in general. If you're going to be getting inducers if you're trading with the enemy army fairly often, then you're always simply just generally down 2 Titans. And then if you decide to invest that money into inducers, then the money won't be going towards more Titans, so you'll be, rather than being 2 Titans down, you'll be more like 4 or 5 Titans down than when compared to your opponent. And sure, you might have those inducers, but that's too many Titans to be down, so even if you have an inducer advantage and you're able to kill those Titans, simply just won't be good enough. So that's what I mean by driving an advantage, if you understood that. Now I'm going to head into replay number 2, and then I'll end this part 1 video. Now this one is going to be another Keiron versus Keiron with Hardwire. The next one will be Glittering Ashes, and then 2000 Atmos and 2000 Atmos as well. After that, those were the 5 games that I played. I did post those replays onto the Discord channel. Might have to scroll up a little bit, but yeah. But here, this is game number 2. Now in this one, you'll be able to see the Umbra opener against KOP's Fused Aurora opener. And I definitely think the Fused Aurora opener after this game sucks in the Keiron vs Keiron, because simply the Subjector exists, really, and the Subjector's anti-air is just amazing. Just don't go air in the early game, just don't in general. Yeah. You can see me opening up with my opener and him opening up with his opener. Now I did get away with my opener in the last game, even though he did potentially like the strongest opener in some other matchups, or at least quite a formidable opener in general. And yet I was still able to get away with my opener. I didn't end up winning in the late game, but I do very well think from my experience in these games that it is definitely better in Keiron vs Keiron to open up with Edifice Citadel rather than Edifice Gas Sanctum Citadel. There goes that outlet. And I'm just banking up those Edifice charges, waiting to free up supply, which I now have, so I can shape in some of those vaults if need be. The KOP doesn't seem to plan to do anything. There goes the Conduit as well, and then my first Foundry. I'm not entirely sure if I go double Foundry in this game. I might. If you scout that your opponent is only doing, is not going for a Foundry opener, then I would recommend simply just going for one Foundry yourself, if they're not making any. But yeah, here I go, 2 Foundries. This is not generally the correct response, I do not think. I think it will be better if you do not make the second Foundry, if you manage to scout that your opponent is going for this outlet, because the money that you'll need to invest into things like subjectors and vaults for the anti-air to take out and shoo away those auroras, you won't be able to use much of the second foundry, at least for a short time. But it shouldn't matter too much. As you can see here, his Aurora timing and my Umbra, even though he did get that faster tech, his Aurora was still only at the same time. I do scout this, I see this, you can see me selecting as well. I do see this Aurora. The Umbra simply just makes it across the map faster, and it's cloaked as well, so you can still harass fairly well with it. This Aurora, subjectors have amazing anti-air. Even with a fuse, it takes significant hull damage. If I were a better player, I'd already be in this mineral line killing stuff, but... and then I'd probably just proceed to win the game. Which if you manage to do in your games, then congratulations, well done. Just finishing up Wraith Chambers now, I definitely think it's a good idea to get that upgrade. Unless... your opponent might be going for some kind of Vault Bullion, although I haven't heard or seen those before. In which case it might very well probably could be better to than rush Miriams. But even then, it's pretty hard to get those high Vault counts on lower base, that early on. So an Umbra could probably simply just chip away at it. Kind of like Stalkers against Marines without Steamable Combat Shield. Especially with that Wraith Chamber upgrade, you'll be able to do a lot of damage. Just pick them off, run back, cloak, pick another wave off, whittle them down so much, and then especially Energize is just super strong for defending, especially early stuff, but even late stuff as well. There you go. I have a faster third base in this game. Yeah, he really managed to do nothing, and I actually got some work done. So this is why you do not... 10 workers killed actually, wow. This is simply just why you do not make Auroras. Now this is going to be a mistake out of me, quite an overextension. I do not realize that he's making so many Auroras, even though I think I might have. Yeah, I have seen the second outlet. This is definitely a mistake from me, because double Aurora production, conduit as well, because they produce faster. All of these Auroras are going to be fused, and you can definitely see them, those are fused. So, yeah, massive overextension by me. I should, I think, simply just focus on Amplified Sphere, especially if you see your opponent going for this really heavy Aurora type style. Something that I didn't do, which I think I'll be punished for in this game, is instead of getting all these extra edifice, get more sanctums. Just go Sanctum Umbra, and because he hasn't been getting high Umbra counts, because you have the Umbra advantage, you'll simply just be able to walk in his base and wreck all his stuff with Umbra Subjector, and he won't be able to do anything because he has no good anti-ground on the ground, and all of his anti-ground, like the rest of it's in the air, and Subjectors will absolutely wreck that. And I do have the range upgrade, and I'm faster, so I can technically kite these for to the ends of the earth. I do manage to pick one off for these, going after the sanctums that I made. A little bit too late. I should have, I think, hit them better in range of these stratas that I set up. I'm going to send my Umbra across the map. And with Wraith Chambers, 7 Umbra can absolutely destroy a Citadel quite handily. Umbra without the fuses are already fairly tanky. But he does manage to do quite a bit there. There's an unhealthy amount of Auroras. Do end up getting Echoes, getting 2 Empyreans as well, because simply these guys don't shoot up. So this Echo is going to be able to chase these to get into the earth. However, because of that overextension earlier, I'm very far behind. It's going to be very hard for me to get back into this game. I'm just simply unable to get my 3rd base up. I didn't deny his 3rd base like I probably should have, rather than like perhaps just like swing by this, check if there's any Auroras and go like, nah. After seeing those Auroras, then just check for bases instead. I do manage to pick up a fuse with those Echoes. Echoes, good unit for anti-air. But yeah. Reliquary is going down. Especially if actually you might be able to go Echoes rather than Subjectors if you really wanted, although I'm not entirely sure of this. You very well could. If he's going for those Harbingers though, you do have to you would then have to watch out for the Judgment mode. Not entirely sure if it's reliable. It could very well be. But he could also get some Vaults and Subjectives of his own like you see in this game. It is a good trade for me. At least at the start. But But at this point the game is fairly over. There's not too much else to see. So I'll speed up the game a little bit. Yeah. Should not have overextended earlier. Simply, I think. And in the future, if you go against this, and if I go against this, being faster to respond to seeing those outlets and like if you see more than 2 Aurora, more than 3 Aurora especially, at that point you should really be going like, okay, this guy's focusing heavily on Aurora, especially if they're all fused. Make sure you get that 2nd Sanctum ASAP. And you should be able to shuttle this down. Then he should really have no chance. It should be like Stalkers against Carriers in PvP. Like in the early game, that is. Early game, Stalkers versus Carriers. So, which never ends well for the carry. The Stalker player knows what he's doing. Fast unit. The Echo. All these Meridians don't really matter, but I'm simply just so far behind at this point. He's simply been just ahead on army count, so he's always able to trade well against my army. Especially with no myriads, these pariahs are going to be quite handy. Do they? Yeah. I'm only getting my atrium now. Yeah. Quite a confused response out of me in this game, but Other option is potentially with those conduits, if you do decide to go conduit instead of sanctum. Now, I'm not entirely sure about this, but feel free to give it a go for a conduit response rather than a sanctum response to this. Feel free to then, yeah, because the fuses like them. I can't think. After the echoes have cleaned up all the auroras, then the conduits won't be sitting ducks because you could be making those fuses, which are quite good. Fries are good deal. If you don't have any meridians. GG. That's going to be the end of the second one and the end of this video. If you liked it, perhaps pay attention to when the next part to this will come out. But for now, hope you learned something, and I'll see you later. Bye.